because you're going to notice me point to the heart and to the mind a lot. Because I believe humans can do anything that they want to do if they have both of these connected. And then you could identify your lanes. But here's the catch. You got to stay disciplined to it.
I think to myself, wow, I was planning on seriously retiring in 4 years from now. Everybody just stayed and owned their lane.
Correct.
In the process.
Yes.
And that was just the glaring difference.
Matt Weaver, the #1 mortgage originator in the United States for most loans closed in 2023 and #1 in the state of Florida from 2020 to present, has spent over 27 years mastering the purchase market, earning more than 16 #1 titles across his career. Max Fisch, 2024's #1 originator in the United States under 30 and #2 in the state of Florida, achieved those titles within just 5 years of entering the mortgage industry, compressing decades of growth into a few extraordinary years. Collectively, they've helped more than 40,000 families purchase their first home. Now partners and looking to improve the industry on a national scale, Matt and Max share their winning formula, team structure and systems with originators who want to scale from elite to extraordinary levels.
So Matt, as you know, I just turned 31 last week.
Yes.
Which is 13 backwards. I just want to throw that out there. Okay. But one thing that I realized throughout the birthday season and everybody saying happy birthday is I was like, okay, I'm 31 now. And my plan when I first started in this industry at 25 was to retire at 35.
Yes.
So it got me to start thinking as I get into my 30s, I think to myself, wow, I was planning on seriously retiring in 4 years from now. And the reason for that is that I just didn't have the life that was conducive in this great industry. It's done great things for me and my family. It's created financial independence, and the list goes down the line, right? But it wasn't the way that I was operating and what I was doing in my process flow was not conducive for a long career. And so I remember when we first met, I was very interested in hearing from you how you've been in this industry for 27 years. I said, this guy has either got a process or he's a psychopath, because the way that because the way that typical originators operate, which I fell under that bucket.
Yes.
You can't operate at that same level for a long time. And it leads to a lot of burnout. It leads to a distaste for what you're doing. And that carries over into the relational aspect of this business. Homeowners can feel it. Real estate agents can feel it. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've heard from real estate agents and home buyers, man, that guy, he said he's been doing it for a long time, but he kind of seemed like dismissive and didn't want to talk on the phone. And I always thought to myself, well, if I'm doing it this way 30 years from now, I'd like be the same.
That's right.
Right. So when we got to talking, what was glaring and what was super intriguing about the way that our team now is structured. At that point, it wasn't our team, but what was intriguing about it was that everybody just stayed and owned their lane.
Correct.
In the process.
Yes.
And that was just the glaring difference between your process, my process, and really anybody else in this industry's process that I've seen. And so I'd love for you to share with the originators and whoever's listening how that was built, how that was used to take your originations to an extraordinary level, and so on and so forth.
Yes. So it was at the end of 2024 that I wrote out a concept called Originate For Life. The name alone, Originate For Life, has multiple meanings to it. Okay. Some would look at that and say, you mean I got to be an originator for life? Possibly in the models that I rolled out. Okay. But it also means originate for life to get your life back. When we first met, okay, you were, of course, originating at a very high level. But the biggest challenge that you had is you were operating from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m., which is not a scalable lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle that you want to live. God bless your wife. I mean, I know that you all were smart enough to have a plan and basically treated yourself as an athlete, okay, in the NFL and said, hey, look, it's a 10-year play. I'm not going to know you for a decade, but hopefully it all works out and, I can retire from there.
Yes.
Okay, because you were in all lanes, which most originators, probably 99% of them, are in all lanes of the business. They're taught to be in all lanes. We're taught to have a sole practitioner mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I said to a great group of originators, there was, I don't know, maybe 350 in the room. I said, could you imagine if the typical originator owned a pizzeria? They would work the register, they would knead the dough, they would serve the slice on the table, and they'd probably be the delivery driver, okay?
Sure.
And then some of us say to ourselves, wait a minute, what if I put somebody to work the register? What if I got a pizza maker? And what if I got a server? Can I sell more pizza? And so for me, over the past 15 years, I developed a process flow, okay, a systematic process flow, where every team member sits in their specific lane, owns that lane, loves that lane, and does it to a very high level. And most importantly, never crossing lanes. Okay. Internally here at the Matt Weaver team, as you know, we say we live in a black and white world. There is no gray. Gray is confusion. Okay. Here's what originators may want to hear that might resonate a little bit. I'm sure for those that have 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 team members, or maybe more, they've heard over the years, and maybe even to this day, a team member saying, well, you don't know what I do behind the scenes, okay? Because a lot of people are doing things outside of their normal scope because it's kind of a mishmash. So now the team member feels undervalued. The team leader doesn't know that they're doing that, and there's this disconnect that takes place. There isn't a single team member of our close to 100 team members that would ever say, you have no idea what we do outside of our scope, because they never leave their scope of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think about it, that in itself is mission critical. So Originate for Life is a concept I wrote out to where I said, okay, I never was looking to add to the team structure, but my business plan in 2025 and 2026 and beyond was to add originators to our team structure, basically this unit, okay, that allows an originator to plug in and do the part that they love. What are those parts? Well, some originators out there in the heart and here are rainmakers. These are people that love to go out and build relationships, love to present at a high level, emulating what it is that we do. Another lane, advisors. A lot of originators love the individual workflow of the application process, of homebuyer consultations. They're not rainmakers. That's not in their heart. They don't have a passion for it. But the rainmaker doesn't have a passion for what the advisor does.
Mm-hmm.
We have another lane, which is the lab. These are individuals that review pre-approval documents all day long. They don't speak to home buyers. They don't speak to real estate agents. They're in their lane. These are just some of the lanes here that we have. So what we've discovered is that 99% of originators would love to be in one set lane, perform in that lane, stay in that lane at a high level. And what ends up happening is not only do they hit what we call self-actualization, which is peak performance, but they also hit their financial goals because they're in that lane. The originator today has to do so many aspects of the business. They have to go out and prospect. They have to go meet with real estate agents. They have to take applications. They have to review pre-approval documents. They have to have continuing education. They have to go work with the processing, no underwriting guidelines. I mean, I don't know of another industry that has that many degrees of lanes or that type of multiple personalities that you have to have, okay? I don't know any other industry that has that much to it. And yet here we are as originators doing all of those components. And so I know the pain that originators have. So Originate for Life, the concept in itself is giving the originator their life back, allowing them to hit high levels of success. You know that our team members here, okay, are hitting extraordinary levels of success within the lane that they do. both first and foremost personally, okay, from a gratifying standpoint and also monetarily. So here's what I would say to originators, okay? What I would say is if you're really looking to build out a team structure for yourself, if it's truly here, okay, and here, because you're going to notice me point to the heart and to the mind a lot, because I believe humans can do anything that they want to do if they have both of these connected, okay? But if it's not there and you think you should, it's usually not going to work out. So you got to be real with yourself. But if you wanted to build out a team structure, you got to take out a whiteboard. You got to look at the process from beginning to end, from the point of the inquiry, hi, I'd like to get pre-approved, all the way through to funding, all the micro steps in between. And figure out the parts that you love to do and figure out the parts that you, of course, are going to delegate. And then you could identify your lanes. But here's the catch. You got to stay disciplined to it. You got to stay disciplined to it. For those that have a process flow, those are the ones that are going to remain consistent and have that ability to scale. For those that don't want to build a team, this is not a commercial for our team, okay? Obviously, we're looking for the right people to join our platform, okay? It doesn't fit for everyone. We know that, all right? But look into a structure that may be fitting for you, okay? Look into a structure, but I think it's important to have that kind of heart-to-heart with yourself. Otherwise, if you're left in neutral, you're kind of just floating out there. Mm-hmm. And floating out there at some, we're going to say branch where you're just kind of on your own island, I don't think is a whole lot of fun. And I don't think you have the ability to hit self-actualization. And the one thing that I would never want to see for someone is someone being here on earth, choosing a career and never hitting self-actualization.
I think the biggest mental hurdle and obstacle amongst originators that are listening to this, and I shouldn't say I think I know because I had the same mental hurdle and obstacle, which is if you would have asked me prior to partnering with you why I do all of those things, my answer would have been not because I want to, but it would have been because nobody else is going to do it as well as me, or nobody else is going to care as much as I do. And so I think it's a control thing. And what I want to encourage everybody listening is, and I always drive my analogies back to football because that's the world that I lived in. And so the analogy I'll make is in high school, you could have a really good receiver that is also the best cornerback on that team. So he plays receiver and he's the best corner. Okay. So he's playing offense and defense. Now, the struggle with doing that is once you get to college, the higher up you go, the harder it is to do that. So once you get to college, that receiver is now on a team where somebody has solely been focusing on corner for 3 years, and now they're a senior. That receiver who has been playing both positions, practicing both positions, diluting themselves instead of focusing on one lane, is now going up against somebody that is focused on one lane. That is not a recipe for success, like you said, at scale. And so you go to college, maybe you're athletic enough to do it. Once you get to the NFL, virtually no one in the NFL plays both sides of the ball or different positions. And there's a reason for that. It's because when it's proven in sports, in business, when somebody focuses on one lane, typically, and they're obsessed with it and they're passionate about it, typically that results in extraordinary capabilities within that lane. And so within our team structure, what I think I don't want to say perfected because there's always room for growth, but what we do very well and our team members do very well is because they're so passionate about that lane, they're excellent at what they're doing. And so when I came into this team structure, I soon realized that advisor, for example, that does home buyer consultations all day long and they're passionate about it and that's what they do, they far exceeded my capabilities in that area because it's just simply not my passion. And so I think that we need to understand that to overcome that mental obstacle that nobody's going to do it better than me. Because if that's not what you're passionate about, you up against somebody that's passionate about that and does it all day long, I'll take that person over your capabilities. And that's not a knock. but I'll take that person all day. And again, that football analogy is a perfect analogy. So I think that's the biggest hurdle that people have to get over, but it's definitely one that is you can get over easily once you realize how passionate somebody is about the various lanes and things that they're doing within your origination process.
Look, singleness of purpose is the key to production.
1000%. Thank you, Matt.